What if the proto-frames are not on our side? What exactly does the Technocyte virus have to do with the Void? These are all questions that I've asked myself, and with the recent Devstream, I'd like to explore some of what we've learned, as well as discussing the content direction and lore implications. Think of this as a bit of a catch-up. Without getting too much into the lore too soon, the infested liches in all their glory have been revealed, along with Zaku Prime in some of the most unique skin animations I have ever witnessed. Also mentioned was an endless capture mode, which has some lore implications as well, which of course piqued my interest. Essentially chain assassinations where the target evolves and changes every time you defeat it. That brought back the idea of the super strain that I put in an older video. Technocyte Coda could be the strongest strain that was diluted somehow into what we know now as the Technocyte virus. I'm not too sure about this theory, so tell me what you guys think. Is Technocyte Coda the apex Technocyte virus? Moving on. I put up a poll recently discussing whether or not you guys would like to see more large group content in Warframe. Most of you said yes, and in my own opinion, I believe the healthy direction for the game would be to avoid difficulty, like just adding stronger enemies and conditional status effects. If you are familiar with Destiny's raids, the reason why I think they are so good is because they are fundamentally difficult and require a large amount of communication. I'm well aware of the cons of having a game mode like this, but I believe the benefits outweigh it greatly. Tell me what you guys think about all of this in the comment section below. Story time! A small recap for those who don't know. In the midst of Wally's pursuit of Albrecht, or before, the timeline is not completely certain here, Albrecht went back in time to the point of the Technocyte virus's conception. At this point, the Helminth had already been created along with the first frames in the present. Albrecht used that strain to go back in time and heal, quotation marks, a select few. We have no idea what this exactly means for the proto-frames aside from they are partial warframes with minds still intact. I'm sure that there is a negative for the proto-frames having the abilities of a warframe but still maintaining their sanity. Shortened lifespan maybe, we don't know. Or do we? When shown Eleanor back during TennoCon, I'm sure some of you noticed that she doesn't open her mouth, and she seems sick. A great video explaining what I'm talking about is linked above, and using his observations and what is known to be true about the Technocyte virus is that it is not something that heals. It may make its host stronger, faster, and nigh immortal, but this is not without harming it first. The most concerning thing being taking away the host's autonomy, their mind, lost to the hive. The calls from the Helminth is something that has always been concerning, as if its gifts were without consequence. Why do you reject me? I may be alone in this assumption, but I believe that Wally and the infestation have a great deal to do with one another. If you disagree, tell me what you think, and why you think it. But I believe this information, especially a voice line that rings in my ears even now, that was highlighted in the video I mentioned earlier, is enough to draw some simple conclusions. Eleanor was supposed to die, and she lives, regrettably, to Letty, Trinity, the healer's dismay. Now I could be looking a bit too deep into this, and tell me if I am, but the only times a doctor would hate if their patient lived is if the condition that they would be restored to was completely undesirable to most people. That's where the concept of pulling the plug comes from. Now, from my perspective, I wouldn't say that Eleanor's condition is that severe, but we also don't know the extent of her condition. This also begs the question of whether or not Albrecht's healing had willing participants. The conclusions I've come to now are that if the proto-frames are looking for Dr. Entradi, they most likely won't be on the best of terms. The way I think of the situation is if a doctor gave you a prescription for a deadly disease without telling you the side effects, now the proto-frames are experiencing said side effects and they aren't too happy. Arthur is trying to fix his sister, Wally is terrorizing the man Arthur needs, and we are chasing Albrecht right along with them. This, of course, is a very rough deduction of the story at hand. The only way I see this ending is a crazy convergence, hopefully, at the end of this quest. This is a very short one, but I really wanted to touch on this as this dev stream came out. Tell me your thoughts and how you believe the story will go, as well as tell me what you are most excited for. In conclusion, Eleanor might be a proto-frame that we should keep our eyes on, as she might mean more than the others. But I'll tell you what, even if her mouth doesn't open, you know what? I'll leave that for another story. Peace.